This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so I think all of you know that this is our second session. We started yesterday itself. So yesterday we understood the basics of what exactly is central finance. Today we will continue with our concepts knowledge with the glimpse of the SAP central finance system also. And from the third session onwards, which means from tomorrow onwards, we will be concentrating more on the practical side because these concepts are important. Before we go to the practicals in the system, these concepts are very important, and that is the reason I just want to concentrate at least 2 days just on the concepts. So just a quick recap of what we have done yesterday is we understood what exactly is SAP S4HANA, why customers are interested to go for SAP S4HANA. Then we discussed that whenever a customer is interested in moving to S4HANA, they got 3 deployment options. Okay, number 1 is they can, if a customer is completely new to SAP, maybe they are using some third-party systems till now, and now they want to go for S4HANA, they can go with the new implementation approach. Okay, if a customer is already using SAP ECC or any of the SAP previous version, and then they want to upgrade instead of starting scratch, if they want to upgrade to SAP S4HANA, in that case, that kind of project would be called as a system conversion. And then the third type of project where a customer has multiple SAP and non-SAP systems currently, and all this SAP non-SAP systems customer want to consolidate from the reporting point of view, from the group level point of view, from the simplified functionalities on SAP S4HANA point of view. In that case, it may take time to bring all those SAP non-SAP systems to the centralized or to the consolidated system. And that is the reason what this customer can do is, instead of waiting till the time all the systems are not converted to S4HANA, he can go with the landscape transformation. Landscape transformation, one of the scenario, one of the use case within landscape transformation is central finance, where if a customer has multiple SAP, non-SAP systems in his current landscape, and he wants to generate the consolidated financial statements, what he can do is he can activate central finance, and each and every posting, financial posting, which is posted in the source applications, again, SAP or non-SAP, they will get replicated into the central finance system. And at the end of the month or at the end of the year, or maybe even during the real time, you'll be able to get the consolidated reports, right? So landscape transformation is the deployment option, which is, you can say, what we are following in central finance. So central finance is one of the use case of landscape transformation. What are the other use cases we discussed yesterday? So let's assume you don't want to only replicate the financial data. You want to replicate also the data related to sales, related to purchase. So this landscape transformation not only allows you to replicate the financial data, but it also allows you to replicate the selective data. You have to tell the system what data you want to replicate. System is capable of transferring the data from the source application to the target application. Okay, but again, this kind of scenario is not central finance, because central finance only talks about replicating the financial data. Okay, and then we discussed the architecture of central finance, how exactly the central finance works. So in this example, you can see there are two systems in the current landscape. One is SAP system, which is very old version, and second is non-SAP system. Now, if my customer is using these two systems and he wants to generate his consolidated report using the central finance box, in that case, we need to move the data in real time from both of these applications to the central finance instance. Okay, and who will be performing this task? to move the data from here to here. See, previously we were using idocs, we were using PI, PO. So those are the interfaces which we were using previously to transfer the data from the source applications to the target applications. But remember, when it comes to central finance, we are not using those interfaces. When it comes to the central finance, the real-time replication is very important, and that real-time replication is provided by this middleware, which is SLT. Okay, we should also not call it as a middleware because it is not something which is coming from outside. It is part of the central finance architecture. So the tool which is picking the data from the source application, pushing it into the target application is SAP SLT tool. Within SAP SLT, the functionality that we are using is replication. So SLT is a very big thing. SLT is not only for replication. There are various different use cases of SLT tool also, right? But what we are using here is we are using the replication functionality of the SLT tool. So these are my two source systems using this SLT tool. SLT tool is picking the data from the source application and it is pushing into the target application. Now within target application, again, there are a lot of steps which are performed before the document is posted and stored in the universal journal. What are those steps? So number one is SAP provides for central finance, they have provided various different interfaces. So once the document is coming from SLT to the target application, it goes through the central finance accounting interface. What exactly this interface does? This interface identifies from where the document is coming from. Okay, whether it is a financial document or it is a controlling document or it is just a cost object. So based on what document is being received in the central finance instance, based on that, system will identify the interface, and based on that interface, it will go to the next step where it will perform the business mappings. Now, what exactly is business mapping? So just take an example. I have a company code 1000 here in this system, and I have a company code 1000 here also in this system. Okay, as long as these are two different systems, no problem. Company code 1000, company code 1000, although the legal entities are completely different. This company code 1000 is ABC Limited. This company code 1000 is XYZ Limited. So although as long as they are independent system, it doesn't create any problem. But now when I'm bringing them into the central finance instance, consolidated instance, definitely I need to segregate ABC Limited with XYZ Limited, right? So it is not necessary that if the company code is 1000 here, when it will come here, it will become 1000 only. We have to provide those mappings. We can tell the system in here in the business mapping that if the data is coming from this logical client, in that case, company code 1000 will be mapped to company code 2000 in the central finance instance. Same way, if the data is coming from this system, the company code 1000 will become company code 3000 here. So we can get a clear segregation 2000 and 3000 in the consolidated system. So that is nothing but business mapping. I just gave you the example. The mapping which I told you is company code. Similarly, there are profit centers, customers, cost centers. So all those mappings, which system is sending the data, which data is being sent, and how it will be converted to the target application data, that all business mappings needs to be generated here. So just take an example. You created a new cost center here, or you created a new customer here, and now you are trying to push the data to this system. What will be the problem? The problem would be if that customer doesn't exist here, system will not be able to post the data in the universal journal. And that is the reason there is one more place here called as error corrections and suspense accounting. What is the purpose of this layer? This layer will hold all those documents which were not posted due to some reason. Okay, so the reason can be the company code doesn't exist. The reason can be customer doesn't exist. The reason can be cost center doesn't exist. Or the reason can be even the period is not open. So whatever is the reason, when the system is trying to post this document, and if it is getting some error, so this is a place where that particular error can be tracked. Okay, so error correction and suspense accounting is again the area where we can go and we can find out whether there are any documents which are stuck due to some error. Okay, and how to solve this error? Obviously, we have to make the changes if the business mapping is not done properly. So if the customer is created and is not created here, we need to make sure that the customer is created here, the business mapping is properly done, and then we need to again re-push this particular document and it may get updated. Okay, and once this error correction is also done, once all these things are passed out, the last one is internal accounting interface, which will try to post the document in the universal journal, and ultimately even the universal journal stores the data in the SAP HANA database. Right, so there are, if you understood this picture throughout our course, we are only going to talk about the source application, the target application. Within the target application, what is central finance accounting interface, what is business mapping, how to do the business mapping in the MDG tool, what is error correction, what are the different transactions to see the error corrections in suspense accounting. Okay, so if you understood this diagram, most of the discussions that we are going to have during our course will be concentrating on this part only. Okay, so just remember, at least looking at this picture, let's try to understand which are the different tools which are being used here. Number one is obviously SLT tool, which will replicate the data from the source to the target. You can see there is another tool, SAP Master Data Governance, SAP MDG. Now, this is not a mandatory tool. SAP MDG is recommended by SAP. Whenever you are using central finance, it is recommended that you use the SAP MDG for harmonization of your master data. But if you don't want to use, then this business mapping can also be done using some tables which are provided by SAP within SAP S/4HANA Central Finance system itself, right? So if you don't want to keep it manual, if you don't want to manually update those tables, it is recommended that you use the MDG tool. Okay, the benefits of MDG are huge. We will talk about how exactly SAP MDG will help you in harmonizing the data and making sure that the business mappings are always consistent. But if you don't want to use, because this comes with a separate license, so it totally depends upon the business whether they are going for this license, and it totally depends upon how much master data are we expecting on day-to-day basis. If a company is very big and there are only big customers, or big like, you don't change the architecture on day-to-day basis, the customers are only added maybe few customers in a month, in that case the customer may say that, okay, in my case there is not much master data, so I don't want to go for MDG. But on the other hand, if the customers are increasing day by day, there are thousands, billions of customers which are get it added during the month, the cost centers. I'm giving you the example of the customer. It is not only the customer, there are a lot of factors which we need to verify, based on which we need to take a decision whether to go for MDG or to maintain this business mappings in the normal tables which are provided by SAP. Okay, so this is also what we discussed yesterday. So maybe I'll go to the next one. Yeah, so just a quick one. So central finance, we discussed, it consists of three systems. Number one is your source system. Number two is your SLT in between. And number three is a central finance system, which is a target system. Okay. Now, what are the prerequisites of the source system? I think this also we discussed yesterday, but let's see with this figure. So you can see whenever this is a source system, these are the various different options of the source system. So either your source system is already SAP or your source system is non-SAP system. The best one is if your source system is SAP S/4HANA. Okay, if your source system is SAP S/4HANA, then it has already components which are present by default. You don't need to do anything in the source system if it is S/4HANA system already. But if you are using your source system as SAP ECC 6.0 or above, in that case, again, the effort is minimum. There are only few SAP nodes that needs to be implemented in the source system to make it ready to transfer the data to the target system. right? But if you come down, the complexity will keep on increasing as you keep on going down. Why? Because if you are going with SAP 4.6, 4.7, these are all the products which are for which the support is not like it is out of, we can say, out of support releases, which means SAP is not supporting anymore. Okay, and that is the reason if you want to use this older applications as a source application, there is a lot of work to be done. Okay, not only here you can see only the SAP nodes will help you. If you just implement those SAP nodes, this system will be ready to be used as a source system. But if you want to use this as a source system, then definitely you need the consulting help from SAP. So you have to raise the incident with SAP, and SAP team will help you to make this system ready as a source system. Okay, and if you are using very small scale SAP tools like SAP by design, SAP business one, in that case, or even non-SAP, so these three things are considered same: non-SAP system or SAP by design and SAP business one. For this, we need to integrate them via the interface staging tables in SLT. So SAP has provided some staging tables. Your job is to bring that data from these three applications to the staging table. Whatever needs to be done from the staging table to the central finance, that is something the system will do automatically. Right? So only for these three applications, we need to create a staging table. For 4.6, 4.7 or previous SAP releases, we need to get a consulting help from SAP. While if it is SAP ECC 6.0, few SAP nodes, but if it is S4 HANA, nothing to worry, it is already readily available to be used as a source system. And that is the reason if you open any SAP S4 HANA system, let me show you practically also in the system. So whenever you open any SAP S4 HANA system, let me verify if this is S4 or ECC. This is S4. Okay. So if you go to SPRO, within financial accounting, you will be always able to see this central finance node. Okay. This itself means central finance is already provided in SAP S4 HANA for source as well as target. So this S4 HANA system, this may be my source system and this may be my target system, or it can be both. So from one side, this system is getting the values from other systems, and on the other side, whatever documents are posted in this system, they are going to the another central finance system, right? And that is the reason if you open this central finance, you will be able to see two different folders. So you can use the same SAP S4 HANA system as a source system. If it is a source system, you have to do all the settings here. And if it is a target system, you have to do all the settings here, right? So S4 HANA by default is readily available to be used as a central finance source and central finance target. But when it comes to ECC, you will not be able to see by default the central finance option, right? Because this is something new which is added. We are using ECC from 2005 onwards. During 2005, there was no central finance concept at all, right? So if you want to use central finance for the source system, which is ECC system, first of all, you need to implement some SAP nodes so that you are able to see the central finance configuration activity in your ECC system. Okay, any questions here till now? Are you able to hear me clearly?
Vikram, can you go to the previous slide for 1 second, please?
This one?
Yes, yes. So we are okay. So we are saying this is the so here the source system is the S4 HANA, ECC, etc. Right?
These are all source. We are talking
So these are
about
all
what
source. Okay.
is, yeah, there is no target here. All these are source.
Okay.
We are just talking about if these are my source system, what needs to be done in order to make them ready.
Okay. So these are the notes. So in the case which is non S4 HANA here, so these are notes that are to be implemented in the source system itself. Here it's a
Exactly.
consult. Here it's a incident to be created, and here it's integrate. Okay, I got this. Cool.
Yes.
Thanks.
See, in
Vikram,
the
can you
slide, I'm
please?
not entering all those SAP notes. I'll be providing you one document. When we are saying the notes to be implemented, there are more than 8, 10, 20 notes. So unnecessarily, I don't want to enter those in the PPT, but I'll be providing you one document. Although this is technical, but it will definitely help you if you are not able to replicate the postings. You can go and check whether those SAP
Notes are implemented.
by your basis team or not.
Correct. Absolutely.
Vikram,
So,
can you go back to the page where you were showing the MDG for a second?
Sorry, can you come again?
Can you please go back to a couple of slides where it was showing the MDG? One slide back. Yeah, this guy. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I have a MDG already there, do I need to do the value business mapping in the MDG full version, or I need to do the mapping in the MDG Lite that is built in the CFIN?
Farooq, we will come to that question because there are a lot of ifs and buts. Yeah, there are a lot of ifs
that's
and
fine. Perfect.
yes.
Thank you.
We will discuss what is even we have 1 or 2 slides on MDG also, which we'll talk today. But MDG, along with some other tools, will help you to do the business mapping. So it is up to you
Okay.
whether you want to use MDG or you want to use some other logic.
Thank you.
Okay, replication server we already discussed yesterday. So just a quick recap I'm doing. SAP SLT uses a trigger-based approach. What do you mean by trigger-based? So when do we want to generate the postings here? When do we want the system to bring the postings here? As soon as any document is posted here. So that is a database trigger. And that is the reason SLT tool is a trigger-based tool. Trigger is when the posting is made in the source system. That is the reason it is said it is a trigger-based approach. It provides transformation and filtering capabilities. We discussed that central finance is just one use case. But apart from central finance, we can tell the system, we can filter the capabilities. We can tell we only want to replicate related data. We only want to replicate SD related data. So we are getting the filtering capabilities when we are using the SLT tool. More importantly, it allows the real-time replication. But just remember, although in central finance, we definitely prefer real-time replication, but SLT can also provide you the scheduled replication if required. Although we are not going to use it, but just remember it supports both. So in the exam, if you are getting the question, SLT replication server only provides real-time replication, true or false? The answer would be false because although we are using real-time replication, but it can also help us in scheduled replications also. Okay, very important. Again, it replicates relevant data only to HANA. We cannot say I want to create a central finance system, which is a ECC system. Your central finance system must be HANA system, and you can bring the data from SAP or non-SAP source systems. Okay, and we discussed this also yesterday. Replication from multiple source systems into one HANA system is allowed. Also from one source system to multiple HANA systems. So when we are talking about central finance, we have multiple source systems and we want to send all the data into one target system. This is one use case of SLT. We can even do reverse. One system can send the data to multiple central finance systems also. So both the options are available in SLT, multiple to one. So N to 1 and 1 to N also. One system can send the data to multiple central finance systems also. So it has a capability of 1:N as well as N:1. Why do we need central finance? Now this is something which is, if a customer is implementing central finance, what are the objectives they are looking for? So obviously they are looking for faster closing because with they are implementing SAP S/4HANA. SAP S/4HANA provides you better features when it comes to closing. There are a lot of background jobs which are no more required. There are many periodic activities that were required in SAP ECC to be carried out, which are not required anymore. For example, asset accounting. There were a lot of periodic activities. Now that is not required. There was a periodic activity to reconcile my FI and CO balances. That is also not required because by default, everything is getting stored in the universal journal and that is a single source of truth. So ultimately, you are getting faster closing. Number two, COPA is simplified in S4HANA. In SAP S4HANA, you remember there are two types of COPA in ECC, costing-based COPA and account-based COPA. In S4HANA, account-based COPA has been simplified and it is recommended to be implemented for all customers. So let's assume you are using ECC system today, maybe 2-3 different instances you are using of SAP ECC, but you have not implemented COPA there. Why? Because it was very complicated to implement COPA and to derive the values. And that is the reason it was like, if you see the cost benefit, you thought, okay, let's create it in the Excel itself, because otherwise unnecessarily I need to give more time to set up the things and I'll be getting the same reports which I can generate in Excel, just for example. But now, since account-based COPA is simplified, there is not much configuration to be done. Most of the things are also getting stored in the single table. That is the reason SAP is recommending to activate COPA for all the clients, account-based COPA. So in this way, if you have multiple SAP, non-SAP systems, and if you can bring that data in one common system, and in one common system, if you are able to generate those account-based profitability reports, that would be too good. Whatever activities you are doing in Excel today, that can be removed. That too in the graphical formats using the analytical apps which are provided by SAP. You also have group reporting. So currently, if you are using multiple different systems, anyways, in order to generate the group reporting, either you are taking all the data into Excel and performing the group reporting, or maybe you are using Hyperion or SAP BPC tool. So even that is something which may not be required if you go for central finance. Why? Because in central finance, if you are replicating all the data from multiple systems, everything about the group is appearing in your central finance instance. And from there, using the new functionality of group reporting, which is provided in SAP S4HANA, you can perform those consolidations in the consolidated system itself. There is no need to do it manually or pay the separate licenses for Hyperion or any other tool. Mergers and acquisitions. This is one of the best scenario when the companies will select central finance. I'll tell you why. Let's say today I have 3 companies. Okay, company 1, company 2, and company 3. All these 3 companies are using different tools. So one company is using SAP, second company is using Oracle, third company is using Tally. These are the 3 tools that they are using. Now, even if I go and implement S4HANA, consolidated S4HANA system for all these 3 entities, the problem is what would happen if I buy a new company afterwards? If I buy the 4th company again, what I need to do is, again, I need to merge that company code into my system. Okay, but if this is the common process, if these mergers and acquisitions are happening day to day, then it would be the big challenge to implement SAP S4HANA for each and every company that you bought. So what you can do is, let's assume you already implemented S4HANA, and now whatever new companies you will buy, you will not ask them to change the source system. They will continue to do their transactions in the source system itself, but you will just include the SLT tool in between and you will replicate the data into the central finance system, which is the quickest thing that you can do in order to replicate the data in the central system. Okay, and that is the reason yesterday I think Nikhil was asking this question, why central finance is so popular mainly in US. The reason is in US, most of the companies are the corporate groups which have multiple legal entities throughout the world, and maybe many entities are using their own software, right? And it is not practically possible for, or maybe even if it is practically possible, it will take a lot of time to bring everything to S4HANA. And that is the reason central finance is becoming popular, because what you should do is you just set up the central finance system once, and then you can connect all the new systems that you are bringing into landscape later on by just providing the mapping. Okay, so you will not ask the other companies to change their processes. They will continue to use the same process, same system, but as soon as they do the transactions will be replicated in the consolidated system. So even if you are buying new companies, they are also available to you in the form of consolidated reports. Other new functionalities which are provided by SAP in S/4HANA is intercompany reconciliation. This is another tool which is provided by SAP to remove the cross-company code transactions, perform the translations. So whatever we need in order to consolidate, SAP has provided a new tool within SAP S/4HANA called as intercompany reconciliation. So if you have a lot of intercompany transactions and you want to generate the profitability, you want to generate the balance sheet separately for each and every company code, looking into the group accounting also, then this tool would be very helpful. So this is also something which is coming under S/4HANA. So you just need to replicate the data. Once the data is in the central finance, you can use all these tools to generate your reports. Finally, cash management. This is very important. Let's take an example. I have 3 different entities. Okay, entity A, entity B, and entity C. Entity A has 10 bank accounts. Entity B has another 5 accounts, bank accounts. I'm talking about bank accounts. So currently, if I'm using different software, how will I know at the group level what is my cash position? If I am a cash manager, if I want to see how much cash is available with legal entity A, I have to go into another system. How much cash is available in legal entity B? Again, I have to go to some other system. Okay, so as a cash manager, it becomes difficult for me to concentrate the cash to know what exactly is my cash position, whether I am at good position or I have surplus amount which I can invest, or maybe I am in, I'm not able to, based on the cash position, I may not be able to pay to my vendors, to my obligations, so that I can look for the borrowings, right? So that information, if you bring everything into one single system, you can see the exact cash position of your company. Okay, and with the simplified cash management which is provided by SAP S/4HANA, all this information can be captured at one single place. Okay, and it can be seen using the graphical formats also. Right, so these are all, whatever I written here, these functionalities were not available in SAP ECC. Faster closing because of real-time reconciliation, simplified profitability analysis because SAP has provided many simplifications in account-based COPA. Group reporting is one of the functionality which is now delivered by SAP in S/4HANA. Mergers and acquisitions is not a functionality, but it is a use case. Intercompany reconciliation, ICR, you just Google ICR, that is again one of the topic which maybe after a few years you would like to learn. Similarly, simplified cash management, which is part of FSCM, which has been simplified a lot using Fiori screens. So these new features you can be able to use by consolidating all your different systems, and you will get a group level view at one single position. That is the reason we are saying the main purpose of central finance is bring all the data related to the group at one single place, and then you generate whatever reportings you want. How it works, I think you must have got this already, but this is important. What are the steps which are performed in the background? So SLT loads the data from the relevant source tables to SAP HANA. What is the purpose of SLT? SLT loads the data from the relevant source tables. So for example, what are the source tables for accounting data? If I'm using SAP ECC, my source tables are BKPF and BSEC. What about the controlling tables? COBK, COEP. And what about the third interface, that is cost object, AUFK? So these are the 3 tables which are my source, these are 3 set of tables related to the source system. And if I tell the system that this is my trigger, whenever any data is posted in this table, I want to bring this data into my SAP S/4HANA system. Right, so if any data is added, deleted, or updated. Not only addition of data. If you delete some data, if you modify some data, SLT will immediately create a trigger and the data will be pushed into the S4HANA system, to the target system in short. So in real time, the data information is replicated from SLT to the target system. Just remember, there are two types of replications supported: table-based replication and application-based replication. Central Finance uses application-based replication. Okay, what do you mean by table-based replication? The example that I gave you, this one. This is the example of SLT, but in Central Finance, we don't use a table-based replication. We use the application-based replication. Application means as soon as the document is posted, this document is posted, it will not go and check in the table. When the document is posted using the application bodies and all, system will trigger the replication. Right? So why are we discussing this? At the end of this course, as I told you, maybe in another 4 weeks, once we complete this course, if you write the exam on the next day by referring to the slides, 100% you will get passed. Okay, so that is the reason, although these things you may not be able to realize whenever you are working on the project, but I want you to prepare also for the certification exam, and that is the reason I written these points here. Right, so it is a application-based replication. Central Finance uses application-based replication. SAP SLT replication server uses trigger-based replication approach. So trigger-based and application-based, these are the two correct answers. Trigger is required. Even if it is a table or the application, the trigger is required in order to trigger the posting from the source system to the target system. But which kind of trigger? One is table-based, second is application-based. So for Central Finance, we use trigger, which is application-based. Any question on this? Any confusion? What is application-based? What is table-based?
Vikram?
Yes.
Hello? You know, when you set up the table, do you set up the table for mapping purposes that it will load, or is there a specific template or any sample that's available? And
Yes, let's not discuss that, because that is anyways we are going to come.
And downloading, for downloading is much more work involved consulting. If it is digital enabled, like with ECC, EHP 7 or 8, and then moving to Central Finance, you still need SAP consulting effort, or do they have to prep the source system? It's better.
Okay, see, when it comes to downporting means when you are using
Not
out of
compatible, basically.
yeah. So when you use out of release components, only in that case SAP consulting is required. If you are already SAP ECC 6.0, EHP 7, EHP 8, then only SAP notes are required. So here you don't need any SAP consulting. You can just ask your basis team to apply those notes, and this system will become ready to be used as a source system.
Okay. For the target mapping, there should be a standard template, right?
Yes. We'll talk about that.
Then third question is, let us say current ECC system does not have ABC as well as COPA. And my intention, although you can enable the group reporting by the ledgers, but if I want to do the COPA, then I have to set up the full pledge like a greenfield implementation, right?
No. Again, I will request you to park your question, because these are the topics that we will discuss in detail in the coming sessions.
All right.
Okay, just to answer this question, if you are not using a particular functionality in your source system, for example, that is completely fine. You don't need to activate COPA in your source system. As soon as the document is replicated in the target system, the COPA values will be automatically identified based on the configuration in the target system.
Okay, that was the question.
Yeah, even if you are not using document splitting, even if you are not using ledger-based concept, even if you are not using COPA, that is completely fine. As soon as the document will come to the target system, based on the target system configuration, if you activated document splitting, ledger-based approach in the target system, even if the data which is coming is not coming according to that level, but in target system, it will get posted without any problem.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. That is a benefit. That is the reason we are going, customers are going for central finance, because even though if my current system is not supporting those functionalities, even if my current system is Excel, let's assume worst scenario, everything you are maintaining in Excel. If you just upload this Excel into the SAP Central Finance system, automatically you will be able to generate all these reports. Only thing is, you just need to make sure that those settings are configured in your target system. Okay. So now little bit technical. Okay,
So
although
can we do a sample during our course like that?
yes, we are going to do that, Asha.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So as I told you, starting from tomorrow, we will be only concentrating on practical. These are all important things that you should know from the certification, from the solutioning point. Otherwise, from tomorrow, whatever is required from the functional as well as little bit of technical side, we will be discussing that. What is required in the source system, what is required in the target system, all those things we will discuss in the system itself.
Because my intention is to facilitate, like you said, today's world on ECC, these functionalities not there. We can enable as like an implementation CFIN, bring in the group reporting ledgers and splitting and ABC,
Right.
those kind of segments of COPA. We can do that, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, let us do that. Okay, thank you.
Now we will go to.
I have a question on SLT.
Yes, Adam.
Yeah, SLT, I would like to understand what's the role it's playing. Like it's a kind of same system like PI. If we do, can we achieve a central finance implementation without having SLT? And
No.
secondly, okay, if SLT, do we need to have a specialization in SLT as well for achieving the central finance implementation, or a SAP FICO consultant can also deal with this?
Okay. See, first of all, like PI, like IDOC, SLT is also the technology which allows you to fetch the data from one system and push it into the another system. Now, SLT is mainly required for real-time replication. Okay, so the main benefit of, because just assume how many transactions will be posted in 1 second, right? If you are using, let's say there are companies who are implementing central finance in their source system, they have more than 22 systems, including SAP, non-SAP systems. And they are continuously doing the transactions. Just assume how many transactions they will be doing in the second, and all those billions of transactions needs to be replicated in real time to the central finance. And that is the reason, instead of going with the previous tools, SAP introduced this SAP SLT replication server on the HANA platform. Now, question is, you said, is it possible that instead of going with SLT, I go with PI or IDOC, or is it mandatory to use SLT for central finance? The answer is, entire central finance architecture is based on SLT. Without SLT, we cannot even think about the central finance architecture. Next question you asked, is it required to have the knowledge on SLT as a functional consultant, or maybe is it required, or maybe even a SAP FICO consultant can do it very easily? The answer is SLT, like PI, like IDOC, is a technical tool. Okay, interface, kind of interface that you do. So even if you, let's assume if you are doing the interface with the third-party system in your SAP system, As a FICO consultant, are you responsible for that interface? If you know, good. But if you don't know, that is not your responsibility. You are a FICO consultant, you are a functional consultant. So SLT also comes as a technical object, and there is a separate team required for managing of SLT, and normally it is basis team. So basis team along with the expertise of SLT replication is required from the technical side. But as a functional consultant, we don't need to worry about the SLT. Whenever we are getting any issues, we only need to connect with the SLT and the basis team so that they can resolve and they can help us to achieve the functional things.
So do we have an ABAP skills for that, for SLT mapping?
No, mapping, see again, mapping is not technical thing. SLT activation connection is a technical thing. ABAP is only required when you have some custom built logic that you want to build on top of what SAP has provided in the standard.
Okay.
So for example, SAP has provided you can map company code to company, but you want to map company code to business area. I'm just giving you a simple example. Okay, don't take it very seriously. So if SAP doesn't allows you to map company code to business area, in that case, what you will do, you will definitely bring ABAP and you will write some code so that your business area can be derived based on the company code, right? But SLT activation, interfacing, this is all to be done by the technical guy. Technical means
And
not ABAP. This is basis.
this
So,
is why it is calling business mapping, not the regular mapping that we normally do it.
Exactly. Yes. Business mapping is something that a functional consultant needs to do by taking the information from the business. Or even going forward, even you can give it to the business so that whenever a new thing is, if you are not using MDG, if you are using MDG, it will be taken care automatically. But if you are not using MDG and later on, if you want to provide the user with the access that he can change the mappings, that is also possible.
So Vikram, just a question, going to the previous slide about error handling. Are we going to use any tool in the central finance, or is a standard central finance way to handle the error handling? Because that's
No,
that's one of the biggest piece of that central finance.
error handling will also use a tool called as AIF, Application Interface Framework.
Okay, so we're gonna do some few things over there as well. Yeah.
Yes, we only need to see the log, right? In AIF, we first of all, we need to involve again the technical team who will be activating the AIF for us. Once the AIF framework is active, then on the regular cycle, whenever you are doing any transaction and let's say if it is not replicated, then you will go to that AIF monitor to verify what is wrong, what exactly system is not able to capture, why exactly system is struggling to post the accounting document. So for example, you will get there that the cost center is missing or the posting period is not open. So based on whatever error you are getting there, you have to resolve that. But again, AIF setting up is not functional. AIF setting up is a completely technical thing.
Sure. Yep. Thank you.
one question, Vikram. So in the earlier example, you mentioned that even if we don't have, say, like a particular functionality in ECC, but if you have that configured in the target system, we will be able to populate the same, correct?
Right.
Now,
Yes.
how does that happen? In the sense that I know, I'm sure you're going to get into the details, but just one thing that's niggling me at this time, and that is how will that happen? So now you just mentioned that suppose that one-to-one mapping is not possible, you need the ABAPer to come and probably do some kind of a lookup or some small program. And so is that the same way this is going to be handled, or?
No,
Let's
the full configuration, full-fledged configuration on the target system had to be done.
Correct.
Then when it sends the data, it will process and post it accordingly. Whatever extra functionality that you have inside the S4HANA system that you do not have it in ECC, but you have to configure in S4HANA.
Correct. But how will my question is, how will the
Yeah, Nikhil, let
middle?
me give a simple
Okay.
example.
Mhm.
See, why are you assuming that my source system is always going to be ECC? My source system, as I told you, in the worst case, I'm just giving example, although we never used Excel as a source system, but just assume we have an Excel file.
Correct.
And we want to upload this in the central finance so that those results I'm able to visualize in the central finance system. I'm able to consolidate in the central finance system. Now in my Excel file, it doesn't know what is document splitting. It doesn't know what is parallel ledger. It doesn't know what is COPA.
That
Okay,
is
but
correct.
now tell me one thing. Whenever you post any accounting document, what information you provide? You provide date, customer, vendor, whatever it is, expense account, amount. Document splitting is something which populates automatically, right? COPA is something which is based on the configuration. It will take those values and it will post into the COPA table, right? So
Right.
whenever you are pushing the data, it is not like it is not a table to table mapping. It is not like
Oh, got you.
and
So
pushing into that table. It is
correct.
actually being posted the way you post the normal FI document.
Right. So the way the normal FI document, when it's posted in ECC, your profitability documents are generated, controlling area documents are generated, controlling documents are generated, FI documents are generated. So same way, even if you don't have that, so the same way, once the documents are posted, the relevant documents that we just spoke about, we will have the necessary postings in account-based COPA or
Exactly.
whatever
The
the
business
functionality.
event needs to be configured in the target system. The business event needs to be configured. Then when you sense the data, the business event will be processed and posted accordingly per configuration.
Right. So yeah, that's understood.
Right.
Thanks.
So, Vikram. Yeah, I think, sorry, SLT, if SLT is kind of, it's a middle system, like which is translating the non-SAP or SAP system to the language which central finance understand. So this SLT is actually, if let's assume like SLT is connected to the non-ERP system. So what language it understand? Like it should be in XML. There should be some program, right, which translate the non-SAP system to
No,
the language which understood by the central finance system or S/4HANA system.
No. See, the thing is, as I told you, if it is non-SAP system, okay, in that particular case, you have to bring the data to the interfacing staging tables. So that is something where you need to involve your ABAP. What data should be picked from this system so that it can be brought into the staging tables, and from that staging tables, SLT will pick.
Okay, but to coming to the staging table also, there should be some program, right? If it is a non-SAP system, then the ABAP SQL will not understand by the another system, the source system.
Right, exactly. So that is the reason you need to include your ABAP, and they will be writing the program which will pick the data based on whenever document is posted in a particular application. So that language, whatever is written in your ABAP, based on that system will pick the data and bring it into the staging tables. Let's assume, let's take this example. SLT is SAP system. So I can write a program in that. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Right. Now I'm connecting my SLT to non-SAP system. Let's say it is Oracle. Right? So within SLT, as I told you, it is an application-based replication, which means whenever any transaction is done in Oracle, SLT should be able to know it, that there is a transaction posted there. Right? So when you connect your SLT to Oracle, definitely you have to talk the Oracle language.
Yeah.
Whatever Oracle understands. And that is the reason when you are connecting this non-SAP systems to the SLT, definitely you need to create that kind of interface which is understood by both the application.
That's for me.
Right? And that is the reason it may also require some additional knowledge on that application. Maybe whenever ABAPer is writing the code, see, most probably even all other, see, in short, when we talk about the language, we are not talking about to develop a software. We are talking about a language to fetch the data. And to fetch the data, irrespective of whether it is SAP, non-SAP, most of the time it is a SQL language, SQL. Do you agree to that? It is same as PI, right? Even in PI, what we do when we create a PI interface with a third-party application, in third-party application also we write some ABAP code so that select this item whenever the document is posted. So most probably it is a SQL language which is used to get the data from the source system.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
So is this a customization or is implementation should be happen on the custom table of the source system, or it will be happen in the SLT or target system? I'm assuming you said that all the tables, SAP nodes need to be applied into the non-SAP system to create
No,
those
no.
tables.
Farooq, one correction. How you can how you can apply the SAP nodes to the non-SAP systems?
Instruction node, not the source code. Instruction nodes. What I'm talking about.
What you need to do is, if it is non-SAP system, you have to integrate that application and bring the data to the staging tables. So to bring the data to the staging tables, this is a job of ABAP, so that he can bring the data here, and from here the data will be pushed to the central finance instance.
So where the staging table will gonna be, in the non-SAP system or the target system?
Target system. This is going to be in the target system. Sorry, not even in the target, in SLT. So
Okay,
again, it depends.
Okay.
So SLT, that is exactly what we are discussing next. So we are saying the data should be brought to the interface staging tables in SLT. Now, where is this SLT? Is it in the source system? Is it in the middle of the source and the target? Or is it available in the target system? That is exactly what we are discussing here. So when it comes to SLT, where the SLT should be? Do I need a separate server for SLT? Or I can implement SLT on top of my source system, or I can implement SLT on my central finance system, right? So there are advantages and disadvantages of all these things, and that is the reason it is an option available with the client what to use. So what SAP recommends is you should use SLT in between, which means it should not be on top of your source system, and it should not be also on top of your central finance system. Now coming to your question, you are saying, let's assume this is my non-SAP system. Okay, this is my SLT system. Now, if this is my non-SAP system, how the system will bring the data to SLT? So that is the reason I told you there is a code, there is ABAP required in order to identify what has been triggered here. Based on this, it will bring the data in the staging tables of SLT. Once the data is available in the staging tables of SLT, then it will be pushed to the central finance.
Oh, so basically you are saying there will be a custom code to put the data, is the staging table in the source system. Then the SLT will fetch the data through by code from those staging tables.
Exactly.
Okay, makes sense.
Yes. But that is again too much technical. Okay, for understanding sake is fine, but what code, what language, I think that will become too technical. That even your basis or ABAP, even I think even your normal ABAPer may not be able to answer this question. He needs some experience in SLT, how the SLT needs to be connected.
And Vikram, you know that when you are in a consulting, when you are working for client, we need to have these answers. Somehow need to get these answers.
Yeah. But again, the language and all I'm talking about, this one is fine. Whatever you asked is fine, but there was a question which language. So language is something which even I think a normal ABAPer will not be able to answer that.
Vikram, do you normally do SLT?
Sorry, what does it mean?
Do you normally do SLT functions or no?
SLT functions or no? I'm not getting your question.
I think whether the ABAP programming, etc., is the question. I mean,
no, I don't do SLT. No, I'm not a technical. I'm a functional consultant.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we had that question too. So there is some proposal that I'm involved in, and The SLT function is done purely by an ABAPer, and we are in the process of identifying one from our offshore.
Right.
It's a complete technical. As functional folks, you would not be involved in that. It's completely technical.
Yeah, even I also, in some of the countries, even this SLT, it is mandatory to involve SAP in some of the countries.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, because SLT tool itself, you cannot buy and use. SLT tool comes with the consulting. So for example, if you want to use SLT tool, you have to involve SAP consultants into that. They will implement and they will hand it over to you.
It's a kind of a black box or what?
Yes, so
Go
SLT
ahead.
is a tool, yeah, which involves the spatial consulting help from SAP also. So whenever you are setting up in some of the countries, it is mandatory that if you are using SLT, you have to involve SAP consulting help. You cannot do it on your own, even if you are expert in that. But still, there has to be someone from SAP who will be monitoring that.
Okay, okay, that will be better. Risk mitigation will be better, right?
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. Nikhil, you are doing now, Nikhil?
Sorry.
I am part of the. I'm not hands-on on it, but I'm supporting certain things in the account-based COPA only from a configuration in the target system point of view. But I'm not part of the core team. But in today's meeting, they were talking about the SLT and how they are in the process of identifying. And I think there is, at the client side, there is SAP too. So this is a joint thing between SAP and us. I don't know whether they will be doing the entire SLT, because I know that they have a couple of ABAPers in place for that, because they have like a couple of external systems also. Non-SAP, I mean.
Okay, okay.
But I'm not, to your question whether I'm involved in the CFIN part, no, but I'm involved in the target system. I'm advising on the product costing configuration.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Are you in UK?
No, I'm in the US. I'm in Chicago.
Questions
Chicago,
related
okay.
to other
I'm
participants
Houston.
there are a lot of participants, Aisha. Let's keep the
Sorry.
questions out of. Yeah, we only have short time for central finance, not like simple finance. So let's concentrate here. Okay, so we have 3 deployment options. You can see this is for SLT. Okay, similarly for MDG also, you have the different deployment options. So when it comes to SLT, as I told you, the option number 1 is you have a ERP or non-ERP system. Okay, let's assume here in this particular scenario, let's assume we are having SAP systems. Our source system is only SAP system. Let's assume that. That is the reason. If you assume that, it will be easier for you to understand this. Now, if I have source system as SAP, I need SLT and I need a central finance. The question is whether I should include this SLT as a separate system completely, or I should include this SLT as a part of ERP system itself, or I should include this SLT as a part of central finance system. So these are the 3 different options which are available to the customers. Now, definitely the recommended one is SLT should be deployed on the separate instance. Why? So there are benefits and disadvantages of each scenario. So you can see the first one. If you deploy SLT on the separate instance, this option is recommended. What are the advantages? Additional source systems can be integrated to SLT without impacting the other source system and the central finance system. So if I'm going with this approach, I can easily bring another SAP non-SAP system and connect to SLT so that it can be replicated to central finance. Right? If I want to add additional ERP or non-SAP system, I can easily bring it and connect to SLT, and system will be able to trigger the postings in the central finance system. But what if, okay, let's go to the second point. It does not affect by any upgrade or update of the source system and the central finance system. Now let's consider this example. So if I implement SLT here, what would be the problem? If I upgrade my ERP system, it may impact the SLT because SLT is on top of my ERP system. But in this particular case, it doesn't matter, right? If you are upgrading this or if you are upgrading this, it will not impact anything on the SLT system. That is exactly what is told in this point number 2. Point number 3 is SLT can also be used for other integration scenarios besides central finance. So if I have this SLT available independently, I can connect many other systems as a source and many other systems as a target. So I can use a single SLT tool which will connect multiple source systems to multiple target systems. But if I am implementing SLT here, then my source system cannot be anything else. The source system will be only this one. Right? So that is the reason if you have multiple SAP, non-SAP systems, it is always better to have a separate SLT box in between rather than just using the SLT tool on top of ERP or the SLT box on top of central finance.
Vikram, the tool SLT has any limitations on the load balancing or no?
Load balancing, what do you mean load balancing?
Because you have a transformation of so many systems.
Yes,
and
yes,
volume.
I'm coming to that. You will get here in next 1 or 2 slides, you will get the answer. Disadvantages. So we already understood the advantages. What are the disadvantages if I go for separate instance? SLT does not have direct access to the data, neither in the source system nor in the central finance system. See, if I use SLT here itself, then even if there is no network, so there is a lot of dependency on the network. So let's say if the network is slow, what will happen here? The data will be retrieved slowly. There will be the performance issues if the network is not good. But if the data is available in the source system itself and you are using SLT here itself, then there is no need to be dependent on the network. Right? So this is what I'm talking about, the benefit. In this one, it is talking about the disadvantage. SLT does not have the access to the data either in the source system nor in the central finance system. If I have the data, you can see for option number 2, this is the benefit because my source system and SLT is using the same database. So the data is always accessible by SLT, which means the performance can be improved because I don't need to read the data from the third party. I can directly read the data in the same system where SLT is residing. So this is the disadvantage of option number 1, that there is no access of data, not to the source system, not even for the target system. Also, second point, any function or integration logic built based on additional data from the source system and the central finance system requires additional replication. Definitely, whenever you make any changes here or you make any changes here, you definitely need to make sure that that is properly mapped in the SLT. But if you use SLT here, then whatever changes you do here, that will automatically replicate it to central finance. Right? So that is the second disadvantage of using SLT on the separate instance. Now, if you understood these advantages and disadvantages, they will just change their place. Whatever are disadvantages will become advantage in the second and the third slide. So if it is source system, if you are implementing this scenario, option number 2, which means SLT and ERP on the same page, in that case, this option is only valid for supported ERP systems, definitely. Can I use this SLT on top of non-SAP system? No. Can I use this SLT on top of previously ECC 4.7, ERP 4.7, ERP 5.0? No. This can be only done if you are using ECC 6.0 or above. So that is the first restriction. Advantages, SLT has a direct access to any data in the source system. So from the source system point of view, you have the direct access to the data. So better performance on read. I think this is what Aisha was asking. So performance, load balance will be lesser if you keep SLT as a separate instance. But if you put it on this box or put it on this box, then definitely the performance will be improved. Okay, so better performance on read because there is no network connection required with the source system. When it comes to disadvantage, other source systems which are connected to SLT can impact the performance and stability of the source system with SLT. So if you're going with this approach, you have multiple SAP non-SAP systems, but you are implementing SLT on top of single system. You're not going to implement on each and every source system, right? SLT will be only available for one system. So each and every SAP or non-SAP system has to go through this SLT, which will definitely suffer the performance.
Vikram, this means the instances on a QA, multiple, like, sandbox, QA, and production system. So you will have 3 different SLTs.
No. Okay, you are saying from development to quality to production. I think single SLT, you don't need multiple SLTs for that. Single SLT. Otherwise, how will you check if the thing is working in development? If you have another SLT in quality, then there is no point, right? There has to be the same.
Yeah. It will point to system, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Another disadvantage is if you upgrade or update the source system with SLT impacts the replication of the other source systems. Definitely, if you go with this option and if you are upgrading this ERP system, so upgradation will impact the other systems also and to SLT also. So instead of going this theoretically, let's just remember 2-3 points. Let's talk about this scenario. So this scenario is using its own SLT tool, which means it is not dependent on this system and this system. If you upgrade, update, whatever you do at this system, that will not impact here. Number 2, the problem is that because this SLT is independent tool, if I want to extract the data from here, performance wise, this would be slower compared to if I implement SLT here or if I implement SLT here. I think these are the 2-3 points that you should remember when it comes to advantages and disadvantages and what is recommended from SAP. Recommendation option is you go for a separate instance for SLT. You should not keep the SLT box on top of ERP, or you should not keep the SLT box on top of central finance. Okay, so same way, central finance is also same thing. No direct access, better performance, and SLT can have the bad performance impact on finance system as many. This is another point. SLT can have bad performance impact on central finance system as many source systems gets connected. So if you go with this third option, if you are implementing SLT on top of central finance, because there are multiple SAP, non-SAP systems are pushing the data here, and SLT and central finance are working on the same system, definitely there will be some performance slowness from the central finance point of view because it is sharing the load with the SLT tool. If it is separate, then central finance can concentrate only on the application part. SLT will be taken care separately.
So this SLT and central finance, quick question is, is that the target will be one more, right? After this, then there will be a target, correct? Or is this?
No. Which one you are saying? Third
So,
option.
so yeah, third option, when you say SLT is part of, so the central finance here, that's not the target system, correct?
It is a target.
It is the target. Okay.
Yes. So
Okay,
see, you can have multiple sources here. You have a central finance target here, but instead of keeping SLT in between, you are implementing SLT on the same box as central finance. So what will happen? Whenever you post any document, it will go through SLT and then it will go to the central finance, but they are sharing the load. And that is the reason the problem would be if you are upgrading the system, it will impact SLT, and even there will be the performance issues because they are sharing the load.
Okay, so that central finance basically is nothing but the S4HANA instance.
Definitely, yes.
Okay, got you.
Central finance target system cannot be any other system. It has to be SAP S4HANA system.
Right.
Okay, any questions on these 3 options? This you should know from the solution point of view. Otherwise, this is something technical. Technical SLT guys will help you out what to do.
Yeah, one more question, although you said before, but I just want to clarify my mind. The receiving target central finance system, at this point, we are only getting three objects: finance, CO posting, and CO objects. That's what it will receive. But some few things you can bring him in order to implement the full pledge on the target system, which is a central finance. You can still implement one module by module. It will have all the necessary activated components and everything, or you have to re-get a different license.
No. If you are, again, SLT, as I told you, is a very big thing. What we are discussing is central finance. So if you buy only central finance license, then you will be only able to replicate the financial data. If you want selective data migration, in that case, you may need to get a separate license to migrate the data which is relevant to you.
Okay, so it's kind of a sidecar project. You have to get a S4HANA full-fledged license, and you can do parallelly, but central finance team will be separate, the other team will be separate.
Definitely, yes.
Okay, gotcha. But they will be still connected to this central finance. They will enable the components, SAP.
Yes. No, it is not necessary central finance. No? If you want to go for other components, it may not be on the same server. It may be on the other server.
Okay.
It can be same or it can be different.
Oh, I don't know then. Then you have to remigrate all this financial stuff to the newer system, right?
No. I am just saying you, it is totally dependent upon the customer, what he wants to migrate. If he wants to migrate everything on one system, that is also fine. If he wants to migrate financial data on one system, other data on another system, that is also fine.
I think I didn't ask you the right question. I have a central finance license, and I'm going to only replicate the three components of central finance.
Right.
That's one. But my intention is implementing S4HANA very soon. So if that's the case, I need to buy a complete license for central finance and S4HANA. So I will have a full-fledged software.
No. See, first of all, this central finance itself is your S4HANA box.
Correct.
This one. If you already bought the license of S4HANA, then you can use this system as S4HANA. Plus, if you want to bring the data from the source systems via SLT, then you need the separate license for the central finance to replicate the data. One is to use the server. One is to use the SAP S4HANA, that license. Second license that you need is to use the central finance to replicate the data in the central finance system.
I'm still lost.
So
Yes,
basically, Vikram, you are saying that in order to make central finance workable, we gotta have a S4 license first.
Definitely,
Then
yes.
the central license. So mandatory is S4, then enable the central finance license.
Right. Mandatory is S4. Without S4, you cannot think of central finance. So you need the S4 HANA license. And if you want to use central finance, you need a central finance license. Central finance is not a system. Central finance is a tool that you are using, right?
It's a digital core. It's a digital
right.
core, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, so this central finance, to Aisha's, just adding to Aisha's question is basically, so you're getting in all the finance postings and you're posting. You now in that central finance system, I want to add configuration for logistics and all other items. Can I do that?
Yes, you can do.
And then you can still bring in and you can still keep central finance as active as long as you want, and then that along with the other portion, MMSD portion, will all harmoniously work like business as usual.
Right. That is your ultimate intention, right?
Okay.
Why you are using central finance? Just the example that we used yesterday. that if you are telling the customer that it will take 5 years to bring all the data to this system, so he will tell you work parallelly on that, but in the meantime, at least replicate the data so that I can see the consolidated reports. So once you set up the central finance, your consolidation reports are working fine, but you can parallelly working on implementing those, configuring those MMSD related stuff parallelly in the S4HANA system, same system where you are using central finance.
Correct.
So
That
you
makes
will
sense.
have a license for S4HANA, you will have a license for central finance. Now implement the central finance, the data will be, the process to three component data will be pushed. As you implementing the other full-fledged module, it will post as a delta, right?
No. See, don't get confused there. What you should do is, if you are parallelly working on the S4HANA implementation project, don't touch any company codes, any data which is coming from central finance. So keep it completely independent.
So yeah, this is Vijay.
Yeah, Vijay.
Basically, what is happening is, for example, the example that Vikram gave. For US, you will have one company code. For UK, you will have another company code, and for India, you will have another company code in S4. And all this will be integrated along with, um, from the data coming from the SLT and central finance. So you will need S4 HANA S4 first as well, but you will not be doing complete transformation or modification of the older systems right now. Is that understanding correct?
Right. So initially, when you are using central finance, you will not completely close the current system. They will be operational. They will be sending the data to the central finance system. But parallelly, let's take a simple example. Same example what Vijay took. I have a separate system for US, separate system for India, and separate system for Europe. Now, if a customer asks me how much time it will take to convert all these systems into one single consolidated S4HANA system, I want to discard all my current systems and I want to do all my transactions in the S4HANA system. This is the requirement. So looking at the business scenarios, looking at the complexities, we told the customer it will take 5 years. Customer said, okay, you continue working on this project, but is there any shortcut to at least generate my financial consolidation reports? So we said, yes, in the meantime, you can go for central finance. So till the time one team is working on implementing all these systems to the one single S4HANA system, in the meantime, the second team can come into picture and they can try to replicate the data so that the centralized financial reports can be drawn using the same system. But the thing is, these two things should be done completely independent. Whatever company codes central finance system is using, don't try to configure the same company codes in the new implementation project. Keep it separate. Otherwise, it will disturb the flow.
This is where I have a disconnect, because initially when I need to prep the central finance system, target system, I need to configure everything that's incoming objects. That includes org structure for sure. Now, when I want to go for full-fledged S4HANA, of course, it will have a complete base configuration, which is an org structure, then rest of them, document whatnot. So how would I not touch the company codes, etc.? That's where I'm confused.
No, exactly, Aisha. What I told you is, again, 3 company codes you have. When you are implementing central finance, you have to configure those 3 company codes only from the financial point of view, correct? In the central finance system. Aisha, clear to this point?
Yeah, correct.
Now another team is working parallelly to set up MMSD, FICO, everything. It may be another system where they are working on. If that is the other system, then you don't need to worry at all. These are 2 completely independent things. Do you agree to this?
Agree.
Okay, now coming to this problem, if I have a same system where 2 teams are working, one is central finance, second is my normal new implementation. So I already configured the central finance. I already configured 3 company codes. The data is populating on day-to-day basis. Replication is happening on per transaction basis. Now, these 3 company codes, which are created for central finance, this should not be given to the other implementation team. Let them start from scratch. Let them take another company codes.
No
No,
more
but
company codes. All of them are here in central finance right now.
suppose these are the only 3 company codes. Suppose
But
they are the only 3 company codes. Let's take that example.
Yeah, same example I took now. These 3 company codes, they have to create again without
In the
touching the central finance company codes.
Oh,
So
so then
company,
that will be a different instance of the S4 HANA then?
no. Different instance, then it is independent. Then we don't need to worry at all.
but the AC docket is going to be the same AC docket, right, Vikram? When they create the new company code for the
Right.
S4 project, it will going to mingle together. I mean,
Duplication or whatever. I mean, yeah, I am a little confused.
Life simple. Let me show you. See, these decisions, obviously this should be taken by the business, but I'm just giving you one scenario. Normally nobody works on this same system to do 2 projects, but since the question is asked, I'm just trying to give you the practical, my suggestion how it should be handled.
Even
Yeah, I
if I
agree.
don't
I agree with you.
prepare
I think we will have to have a
central finance, I will start the S4, but still my all the structures, document types still
yeah,
will be in CFIN.
it's a single effort. That's an overall effort that need to be chart of an account need to be redesigned, all the org structure. So that need to be applied for S4 project as well as central finance.
That's
Just
my
give me,
understanding.
I'm
That's
just
my
trying to
understanding.
do something.
And Vikram, totally agree with that. These 2 projects cannot work together because that's gonna kill the. So what's happening? So the scenario is you are working on S4 implementing a 5-year road plan. Suddenly you acquire a company, and now you need to produce the financial reports from the system that you have not built it. So I don't think that that's a real scenario, Vikram.
No, I'm coming to that. Just give me a minute. I'm not able to share my screen properly. I just want to show you one scenario. See, practically it is possible. Only thing is these 2 teams would be completely independent. We need to
Right.
understand that very clearly.
Yeah,
Are you able
otherwise
to see my Excel?
there's an overlap of the systems, right? And that will be a complicated situation. You have an existing already 3 company
Yes,
codes.
we see the Excel.
Okay, are you able to see my Excel now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. See, this is system 1. This is system 2. And this is system 3. Okay. I have company code 1. Okay, just assume there is only one company code in each system. Right? Now, this is again, just complete the example. This is US, this is Euro, and this is India. Now, a customer asks me, I want to convert all these systems. Let's assume this is Oracle. This is SAP R3. And this is SAP ECC. Now customer comes to me and tells me that I am very much impressed with S4HANA capabilities. There are group reporting, there are account-based COPA. So I want to replace all these 3 systems. And since it is SAP S4HANA, there is no problem from the performance point of view. Instead of converting each and every system separately to 3 different instances of S4HANA, I want to bring all these 3 systems into one. Looking at the complexity of these projects, we got to understood that R3 is being used from last 15 years or 20 years. System 3 is being used from last 10 years. So definitely more the number of years, more the complex is the current system, more the data, right? And that is the reason we said the customer that it will take 5 years to implement this project. I'm just giving you one example. Don't try to correlate it with what is happening in the industry. So this is same kind of example what is happening in the industry, but don't take it very seriously. So 5 years is a time that we have given to the customer. Customer said, okay, I know my business is very complex and that is the reason I know it will take 5 years, but is there any shortcut so that at least I can get the consolidated report of all these three entities in the meantime. So we said, yes, maybe in 1 year time, we can implement central finance for you. So he said, yes, okay, let's do that. So what we have done is, this is system one. Okay, this three systems, this three company codes. Okay, and we mapped it to system 4. This is system 4 is our S4HANA central finance system, right? This is our central finance system, and we mapped this company code to company code 1 in the central finance, company code 2, company code 3. And let's assume after 1 year, this is live. So whatever is posted here in company code 1 in system 1, it is replicating to company code 1 in system 4. Whatever is happening in company code 2 in system 2, it is coming to system 4 as company code 2. This is already working fine. Now there is a parallel project which is going on to implement greenfield implementation for these three systems to bring them into. Now there are two scenarios. You want to bring it into the system 4 where already central finance is being used, or you want to go for the system 5, which is parallel system, which you will continue to use till the time all the company codes or all the systems are not migrated to S4. If the system is 5, then there is no confusion, right? It is very straightforward, a separate project altogether, right? Can we skip that system 5?
No, that's fine. Yeah, this is fine.
That's fine. Okay, now coming to system 4. Now my customer says, this is a system which is already working fine from the central finance point of view. Can you implement in next 5 years, can you use this system to bring all these three company codes here also? So in that case, what I recommend is system 4 should not be again the same company code. I know this is company code 1 here, but here I don't want to touch this CC1 because it is already being used productively in central finance. I don't want to unnecessarily disturb this company code at all. And that is the reason I will create company code 4, company code 5, and company code 6. And once these company codes are 100% configured after 5 years, once everything is configured, I will skip this. Okay, I will close this, and I will treat it as a new implementation. I will migrate all the balances from CC1, CC2, CC3 into CC4, CC5, and CC6.
Vikram, but this will be the waste of the resources. We
But
should be
the compliance will be the problem,
No,
because
no, at the end of 5 years, you will not have CC1, CC2, CC3 feeding into central finance. That will be shut down, right?
I think we should be using the N+1. We should be using the N+1 approach, right? If something is in the production, if running, we need to use the separate system to do the N+1. Why we need to have a separate company codes for that? It's a waste of resources.
So what is L+1 for?
Oh, so the production line, right? So we have a production line going on, and then we have a simulate the another system, and then all the changes go through with that path.
So
And
the plus
then-
one is all the delta. You take the basic configuration of the N system and you add the
See, again,
delta.
I am nobody to tell you what to do. I'm just giving you my recommendation. You have to approach SAP in this case. If there is such scenario, you have to approach SAP, and this is not a very straightforward answer, to be frank.
Exactly. And it's a very rare exception.
I am given a chance. If I am given a chance, I will never touch this company codes because these are being productively used, and I don't want another team to touch this company codes at all.
No, I agree with you, Vikram. Even in N+1 environment, you will go ahead and create new company codes, CC4, CC5, CC6. You will not touch the existing because the existing company codes have a different flavor than what you want in the complete implementation.
Yeah, but Vijay, in the same instance, CC1 exists. How you can create CC1 again? It will have to be a new company with a new name. So I do feel that it will like US01 will now become US02. Client will not accept that.
I think this is not
auditing compliance. And the auditing, if you need previous one and anything from the last years and any baselines, and the compliance will be difficult situation because
I think what will happen, and maybe Vikram, we can bounce this off to the group. Here is suppose you are having say, let's take only one system. Okay, let's take the US system here in your Excel. That is CC2. Sorry, CC1. Now CC1, you have configured all the company, the entire company code. Okay, now you are creating the other part, logistics, etc. Let it go on. You still have this coming in through central finance because
No,
you
no,
have
no.
all your finance because you have
No,
all
no.
your huh?
Okay, tell me one thing in that case. If I
Uh-huh.
give this one to my logistics, and if they are trying to test their scenarios, okay, maybe in the development, I'm not talking about the production. Definitely, they will not do anything in the production. But they are
Mm-hmm.
trying something in the development system, and they are trying to generate the accounting postings. Okay, so in that case, whether my central finance, if I want to try my central finance instance in the development system, and if they have touched my company code anywhere, will it
Mm-hmm.
not impact my entire effort?
Correct. It will, but what I'm saying
That
is
is
there will be a
also not
cutover
only
date. Hold on.
possible.
There will be a
That is also
cutover
not
date.
possible.
That cutover date, after that only you will start, even in the development, after the cutover date only you will start logistic improvements and cut
No,
off central
no,
finance.
I'm
Then
talking about development here. I'm not talking cutoff date. Where you will put the cutoff
Yeah.
date?
No, no, you cannot do cutoff
no, no.
unless CC4 is completely implemented, right? Tested, and then only you can do it.
Right. So again, it has nothing to do what we are wasting our time discussing this
Yeah, let
because
us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This scenario
we are
never
actually
gonna
talking
happen though.
about
It's
central
never
finance.
happen.
But anyways, this one, this is a very open thing. There is lot of brainstorming required, and each company will take the decision based on what they think is best for them. Right. But again, I just gave you my recommendation. If I am at this position, looking at least, if someone convinced me some other option, definitely I will also try to move from here. But as of now, what I think is this is the best possible solution. Keep it completely separate, and you are treating this as a completely fresh project. Then why are you unnecessarily complicating it with central finance? This is your
Right.
entire project. Your company is already working. They are responsible to migrate this data here, right? You are already running the systems, right? As a part
Correct.
of new implementation project, it is their team's responsibility to migrate the data from CC1 to CC4, CC2 to CC5. Why should I worry about whatever data I replicated?
Because
Right.
the company code nomenclature is changing. Like the
No, no,
US01
no.
will not remain
Nikhil, company
US01,
code
you're saying.
nomenclature has nothing to do. Company code nomenclature changes every day. That is not a problem. If you go from one, okay, you tell me one thing. This is Oracle. Do you think the
No,
company, I kept it simple. If a company code nomenclature is like this, because let's assume Oracle is using 5-digit code, will you say, okay, I have to go with the same nomenclature in SAP also? It is not possible at all.
not possible. But if it is a ERP, ECC, let's take the case of the ECC instance where it is US01. Now, when it comes back to S4HANA, you're saying that it will become a US02.
Yeah, what is the problem in that?
Uh,
Whatever the new nomenclature you want to give, you can give, right?
no, I mean, I don't know if that is okay. Maybe uh,
No, who
that
decided
may
US
not,
01?
because there are a lot of reporting etc. that companies are used to seeing on US01. Maybe it's it's I don't think it's as small as or as trivial. Maybe we can take that offline. Let's proceed.
Yes, 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 obviously. So let me go back to this
No, but
one.
but basically why we were discussing this was that the central finance is a separate implementation, S4 is a separate implementation, right?
Exactly.
If you want to do complete greenfield, that's a separate project, and this is a separate project. I think
It has to be
that's what.
taken separately. It should not get, see, in that case, again, I can just a closing line. Nikhil, if you feel that US01 should remain US01, in that case, whenever you are creating the central finance instance, you make it US04 in that case, and keep reserved US1, 2, 3 for the newly configured company codes.
Okay. Okay.
That can be, if that is a requirement. I don't think that it will make any difference, but obviously I will definitely not mix up the two things. It should be completely separate. They should not touch our company codes. We should not touch their company codes.
But I think it's a vendor software. This question should go to the vendor software because they have a separate CFIN and full-fledged S4 license is separate, process is separate. So they probably should have a CFIN identifier, even though we again move it to S4 full-fledged, they should have a CFIN identifier rather than we pulling the hairs.
This is
Okay.
a functional decision, no, Aisha. This is not a vendor.
No, anyway,
We are
otherwise we'll not be able to
changing the auditing compliance of the company code that we cannot. When we post from a source system, see US01 and taking to US02, that posting, that balance sheet, the tables is not the same. You and me know.
Park it, Aisha, otherwise we'll not be able to complete.
Yeah, let's park this item. Let's move on. I think we can take this off.
Yeah, let's park it. I thought it's irrelevant, but we can park it.
Yeah. Okay, so SLT, you understood that there are three ways in which it can be applied. It can be installed on the separate instance or on the source system or on the target system. Now, what about MDG? So as I told you, first of all, MDG is optional. If you want to use it, it requires a separate license. Again, if you want to go for MDG, MDG comes with a separate license, even in central finance. So what exactly is MDG? So you know the MDG tool is mainly to harmonize the data, which allows you to create, change, or distribute the master data for multiple system landscape, which means let's assume in our central finance case itself, we have a source system and we have a target system. So instead of creating the master data separately for source, separately for target, if we bring this MDG in picture, so what will happen is once we create the master data, it will automatically trigger the creation of the master data in the source as well as target. Okay, and that too, the mapping will be generated automatically. Right, so that is the power of MDG. Again, it can be deployed in the central finance system or as a master hub, which means as an independent or on top of central finance. So for MDG, there are two options, not three options. There are only two options. It cannot be deployed on the source system because there can be multiple sources who are sending the data. So MDG is only either a separate tool altogether, or it has to be deployed on top of the central finance instance. It provides consolidation standard processes for business partner, you already know, for customer, vendor, material. So in short, whatever master data we want to replicate, we can use MDG for that. What about central finance? So central finance uses SAP MDG function to maintain and perform the business mappings also, not only creation of master data, but also to map the entries from the source system to the target system. Okay, so this is the example of the two deployment options that MDG has. It can be deployed as a separate instance, or it can be deployed as the same instance as the central finance. So you can see this is my source, this is my target, and MDG here is in between. Okay, which means, take an example, whenever you want to create any master data, let's say you want to create a new customer or new vendor. So first you will create a customer or vendor in MDG system. From MDG, it will automatically replicate to the source system also and to the target system also. And it will automatically generate the mapping, okay, with the source and the target. Because when you created, system already knows that this is created in source system with this number, and this is created in the target system with this number. So automatically it will generate the mapping. Option number two is you can deploy the MDG on top of central finance. Okay, so in that case, you have to create all your master data directly to the central finance instance. Right, whenever you want to create any new master data, you have to create in the central finance system, and from central finance, it will be replicated to the other relevant objects. So, but whenever you are creating the master data in the central finance, you also need to tell the system this master data is coming from which source system, so that it can be triggered to the source system also. So if you have multiple source systems, it is not required to be created in multiple sources. You need to tell here, based on that, it will only replicate to that particular source system. right? So these are the two options when it comes to MDG deployment options.
So quick question, Vikram. So in this case, when you're saying replicate, these are only the deltas, or in ECC, suppose your source system is ECC, you have master data there. Now you're saying that we have to take all that master data and put it
No,
into
no,
MDG,
no.
or these
I'm
are only the
talking
delta,
about
new customers and new vendors?
customers. I'm only talking about in this slide, we are not talking about the data which is already there.
Okay,
We are only
okay.
talking about that data which will be created going forward.
Delta data.
Whatever data you already have and you want to bring it into the central finance, that is called as initial load. In central finance, there is one important topic that we will discuss called as initial load. Initial load means before you start replicating the real-time postings, before you bring the real-time postings from the source system to the target system, you can bring the data which is already posted in the source applications to the central finance, historical data. So for example, I'm implementing central finance starting from today. So whatever documents I'll post in my source system from today, they will be replicated into my central finance box. But that is incomplete information, right? Because if I want to generate any financial statement, I need the whole year of data. I cannot survive on the data from today. So what I can do is during the initial load, I can tell the system, bring all the data posted in this company code in this system from 1st of Jan 2020.
That's
So
only
that is called,
transaction data.
no, even master data.
Even master data. Okay.
Without master data, how can you bring the transactional data? First, you need to bring the master data, then transactional data.
Correct.
Vikram, why
Right?
this is saying optional? Why MDG is saying optional? If it's not in, otherwise, how are we going to do the business value mapping?
No, if it is for business value mapping in central finance, also there are some tables provided by SAP. But only problem would be you have to do the mappings manually. If there is MDG in place, you create a master data here. The master data is automatically getting created in both the systems, and the mapping is being generated automatically. If MDG is not there, you have to create the master data separately here. You have to create the master data separately here, and then you have to do the mapping yourself.
So MDG is a more automated and a safer way to would be a leading practice, I would assume.
Right.
Okay.
The central finance is a pretty costly solution, though. I mean, look at MDG is also a different animal. SLT is another animal.
Right.
Not cheap.
No, definitely. But again, looking, that is always based on the business proposition. So what exactly it can bring to you you need to think as a group, as a big group. See, central finance is not being implemented by small customers who have 1 or 2 instances. Whatever examples I have seen, more than 10, 15, 20 instances, they are using different SAP, non-SAP systems all over the world, and their reporting is becoming very complicated. Everything they need to bring it at one place, create the Excel files, generate those reports. So that if that is in the customer's mind, then only they will go for central finance. It is not something which the smaller customers can afford. And even they don't require also, because they are using 1 or 2 systems. In that case, this is definitely not required.
But I think the very important thing is, instead of waiting for 5 years, in 1 year they'll be able to see their reporting, right? If I'm, let's say, if I'm G and I want to know next year, I want to use this for HANA.
5 years is just an example. I gave you only 3 systems. That is the reason I took 5 years. If there are 15, 20 non-SAP systems and you want to bring it everything to SAP, that too the systems are being used from last 20, 25 years, that you can understand the complexity of that project. And second scenario, as I told you, even if let's say you decided that I want to bring all those 20 company codes into the new implementation, what about those companies who are on regular basis doing the mergers and acquisitions? They don't have any other option. They will definitely go for central finance.
And it's not only for the merger, the demerger as well. If you want to separate the company, it will be easier with the central finance.
Yes, yes.
Right.
You can sell it.
Okay, so any questions before we close? We will start, as I told you, we will try to start using the practical system from tomorrow onwards.
So,
I think this
Vikram,
conceptual
I think
is enough.
I missed the first session, but how are we going to do the practically possible to bring something from the source system to the target system here as a part of the discourse? How this is possible?
So we are going to use one source system, SAP ECC system. Let me show you.
Oh, we're going to use a source system. Oh, that's good though.
So we have two systems here.
Okay.
ECC, which is be used as a source system, and S4HANA, which will be used as a target system, central finance system. So there are some configurations to do, and it is already connected to SLT. So we will understand from the technical point of view how SLT is connected, what are the RFC connections. But again, we will go fast into that because those are basis topics. We will concentrate more on the functional thing. But we will try to post some document here, and we will see whether it is being replicated in the central finance instance or not. If it is replicating, what are the business mappings which are configured in the background? How can I change the business mapping? So those things we will be taking in that way. So we have one system as a source, which is ECC, and we have a target system as S4HANA.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
And
Okay, any questions?
quick question. So MDG can take data from non-ERP systems also, no? Or no?
No.
Yes. MDG again, see, before MDG comes into the picture, you need the staging tables, as we discussed.
Okay. For non-SAP data, for non-SAP systems.
For non-SAP.
For
Yes.
SAP systems, you don't need staging tables.
Staging tables are required only for non-SAP, and within SAP, the small scale industries like Business One, by design,
Right.
or those. For SAP ERP, we don't need the staging tables.
Gotcha.
I think the MDG diagram, if you see, go back, the MDG will replicate the data in the source system also. So MDG is your, like the master data, the source.
This one, right? Yeah.
Not the other way around. The source system will not send data to MDG. MDG will create the new customer and send it to the source system.
So
Correct.
is
I
it
just
a
wanted
SLT?
to make
No.
sure that source system could be non-SAP also. That's the question.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, let's understand in this way. Let's assume this is a SAP system. If it is a SAP system, MDG interface is pre-delivered by SAP. But assume if this is not the SAP system, if it is non-SAP system, then also you can integrate MDG, but again, there is a lot of effort required from the ABAP point of view.
So how is it a SLT also need to be used to replicate that into the other systems?
No, you mean to say replicate
MDG.
what? Master data?
Yeah, master data with the source system.
MDG is an independent tool. MDG doesn't need SLT to replicate the data.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
MDG has its own capability to replicate the data.
It's more like a FSCM kind of a thing, like a distributed system, like it goes to the other places as well, like
Right.
credit management and other things.
Yes. Right.
Okay, Vikram, I think we are good. We should. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay then. So we'll meet tomorrow, same time. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.